The Skoda 105, Skoda 120 and Skoda 125 were three variations of a rear-engined, rear-wheel drive small family car that was produced by Czechoslovakian car manufacturer AZNP in Mladá Boleslav, Czechoslovakia between 1976 and 1990. Engine sizes were 1.05 and 1.2 liters respectively. In the early 1970s, Skoda had originally intended to produce their successor to the S100/110 as a front-engine front-wheel drive model. However, because of the lack of funding, Skoda had even applied for license in Moscow to produce their new car with a front engine and front-wheel drive. Skoda was refused a license and was forced to update the earlier S100/110 saloon models. The main reason Skoda was not granted a license to produce their new car was because it would have turned out to be a thoroughly more modern car than any other car from the Soviet Union, something which the Russians wouldn't have been too happy about. At that time, most cars from the Soviet Union had either a front engine driving the rear wheels or a rear engine driving the rear wheels. There was even a front-engine front-wheel drive Skoda 105-120 prototype, which looked almost identical to the rear-engined one. Because imports were banned, Skoda would not have had the proper resources or technology to produce a front-engine car with front-wheel drive. The Skoda 105-120 went into production in August 1976. Despite being basically the same as the previous S100/110 under the skin, the new cars featured a lot of improvements, such as a front-mounted radiator with a thermostatic fan. The heating unit was now inside the dashboard, and the fuel tank was now underneath the rear seat. All models had much the same mechanical specification as the previous models, with the 4-speed gearbox, independent suspension at the front, Workman drive steering, and swing axle rear suspension. An interesting feature found on the 105-120 was the side-hinged bonnet, which opened up like the top of a concert piano. The Skoda 105-120 was initially available in three model forms with a choice of two engines. The 105S and 105 liters were powered by the 1046cc, 44 bhp, 33 kilowatts, 45 PS engine. while the 120 liters was powered by the 1174cc, 49 bhp, 37 kilowatts, 50 ps, engine. The 120 LS and 120 GLS models, which had the more powerful 1174cc, 54 bhp, 40 kilowatts, 55 ps, engine and higher levels of equipment, joined the lineup in 1977 and 1978 respectively. Until 1979, both 105 and 120 were equipped with 14 inches wheels, with 155 senior 14 tires, just like its predecessors, S100 and 1000 megabytes, but since 1979, due to an increased gauge, both models were given 13 inches wheels with 165 senior 13 tires for 105S/L/GL and 120 liters/LS versions, and GLS versions were equipped with 175/70 or 13. This update was made in order to improve road handling, stability, performances and fuel consumption. The cars were initially criticized for unpredictable handling at the limit, but it is unlikely that most motorists would notice anything untoward under normal conditions. The cars continued to win their class with monotonous regularity on international rallies, and were increasingly popular with budget-conscious motorists across Europe. The location of the radiator at the front of the car had the advantage of cooling the engine much more efficiently on the motorway. However, because it was much more complex than in the earlier models, the cooling system was very prone to airlocks, which often led to overheating and even had gasket failure. The existing 105-120 lineup was joined with the 120 LS in 1977. It had a more powerful 54 bhp version of the 1174cc engine from the 120 liters as well as a higher equipment level. April 1978 saw the arrival of the top-spec 120 GLS as well as the 120 standard model. In March 1981, the 105 GL was added to the lineup. It was mechanically identical to the existing 105S and 105 liters models, only it featured the equipment specification of the 120 GLS model. Both the 105 GL and the 120 GLS were given black bumpers and horizontal taillights. In November 1981, the range was supplemented by an attractive Skoda Guard Coupe, which was equipped with the 1174cc, 54 bhp, 40 kilowatts, 55 ps, engine from the 120 LS and 120 GLS saloon models. This had much improved semi-trailing arm rear suspension, and paved the way for the 130-136 models of the late 1980s. The later coupe Skoda Rapid was a facelifted version of Skoda Guard. In November 1982, the 105 SP and 120 LE were added to the range. The 105 SP, essentially a commercial version of the 105S, having no rear seats and no glass, just solid metal in the rear doors. It was only available in Czechoslovakia, sometimes used for postal delivery. The 120 LE was identical to the 120 liters but with a modified top-gear ratio to improve fuel economy, hence C for economic. The Skoda 130 models followed in 1984 and introduced many improvements into the existing 105-120 range. The very first Skoda 130 models were introduced in August 1984, shortly after the earlier Skoda 105-120 models were given a mild revamp. Developed from the earlier Skoda 105-120 models, some of which continued, alongside the Skoda 130 models, in production, like the 105S, 105 liters, 120 liters, 120 GL, 120 LS, 120 LX and 120 GLS. The 130 series used a new 1289cc engine, which produced 58 bhp, 43 kilowatts, PS, and which was just an enlarged version of the 1174cc engine used in the 120 series. This 1289cc engine also saw use in the car's successor, the Skoda Favorite. In addition, the rear suspension was now redesigned to a semi-trailing arm layout, and the track of the car was broadened to 55 inches, 1,395 millimeters. 5-speed gearboxes and 4-pod front brake disc calipers were other updates. The new models countered the earlier criticism that had been made in some quarters of tail-happy handling, with the prominent UK motoring magazine Autocar and Motor remarking in 1988 that the new 136 Rapid model handles like a Porsche 911. In 1987, with the introduction of the new Skoda Favorite, the Skoda 105-120 series was trimmed to just the 105 liters, 105 SP, 120 liters and 120 GL. The 125 liters, which was identical to the 120 liters but with a 5-speed gearbox, was added in October 1988 and was the final model to evolve from the 105-100. From 1989 onward, production of the 105-120 series was gradually wound down as production of the Skoda Favorite progressed. Production of the 105 SP had ended in July 1988, followed by the 105 liters and 120 GL in January and November 1989. The 120 liters and 125 liters, the last remaining models of the 120-125 series, were finally discontinued in January 1990. After a production run of 14 years, which included a total of 1,961,295 cars, counting just the Skoda 105/120/125 series cars alone. Production of the 120 liters and 125 liters, the last remaining models of Skoda 120-125 series, ended in January 1990. On October 5, 2004, a survey conducted by AutoSalon revealed that among the 3,706,012 cars registered in the Czech Republic, 1,780,124 were Skodas. At 305,726 cars, the Skoda 120 was the largest model represented, while there were 216,857 Skoda 105 cars, which made that model the fourth most common Skoda car.